All right, by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to build, customize, and deploy fully working chatbots. From your first agent to live product searches and a few other little tips and tricks. Most chatbot tutorials stop with the basics. They'll show you simple little FAQs and call it a day. But sometimes they need to do a little bit more than that, such as product search or integrate with other applications. So I'm going to take you through the basics, and then we're going to go through how to set up a product search and how you can easily integrate with other applications, even if you're not that tech savvy. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process, setting up an agent, dialing in on the prompts, adding a knowledge base, styling in CSS, building functions, connecting APIs, and rendering dynamic cards. And as a bonus, I'll show you how you can connect your chatbot to external applications like make.com so it can actually trigger real workflows beyond just conversation. All right, so for this demo, we're going to be using chatrace.com, and you just want to create a new account. It will cost you 14 USD a month to use this, but I find this one of the easiest and fastest to whip up some of these AI chats. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of the side here. Flows is the main area we're going to be hanging out in. So if I click on here, we can come on here and click create a new flow, and it'll come up with a little dash. Let's go main agent. And then when you click on here, it'll have a bunch of different options for doing things here. But before we go too far, I'm just going to publish this little thing and come down and configure a few settings. So basically flows and settings are the two things that you guys want to go in the most, and then probably inbox being the third. Pipelines is a bit of a CRM thing. You don't use it too much unless it's a specific use case. Analytics, pretty self-explanatory. AI Center, we will be using this. So, but I have to connect a model first. But this is basically where you store your documents and you create little functions and things. Broadcast, this is where you can do a mass broadcast out to everyone who's used your chat. So another thing, you don't use it too often, but it comes in handy. Tools, this is something you guys can always scroll through and have a little play around with. So there's a few different things like drip campaigns. You can create QR codes and links and all these other bits and bobs, but that's probably a bit outside of this tutorial. We're going to come down to settings, and you can see here it's got a few random little bits and bobs here. You can choose your brand color, time zone, country, etc. But the main one you want to look at is this fallback flow. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to click there, and you can see my main agent has already been created. So I'm just going to add that there. And that's why, and how this works is every time our flow ends, the default, if you're not directing the flow to somewhere else, it's just going to default back to this agent. So I'm going to go save there. And then we're going to come over to integrations, and you're going to add one of your AI models. So there's Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. I'm just going to use ChatGPT for this and go connect. And then you're going to need your API key. So if you don't know where to get your API key, you don't go to chatgpt.com, you go to OpenAI, and I'm logged into mine here. And then make sure you're on dashboard, and then come down to API keys, create new key. And for this demo, I'm just going to do a real estate agency, just because it's a good, easy one to build a search feature for, and will probably make it easy for you guys to understand how it works. So I'm going to take that, put my API key in there, continue, and then you'll see these little things, and AI auto reply, I'm just going to turn that off because we don't need it. And basically this is the other option of this over here. So if this was none, you could set a default AI here, but we don't want to do that. And we don't need that either. All right, so now we're going to come back over to flows, come into your main agent, click on here, click on there, actions, OpenAI. Now, when we come in here, you're going to see there's a bunch of different options here. We're just going to leave it on generate text. GPT-5 Mini will do. And now we want to put in our main AI assistant prompt. And to do this, I have a little thing I like to use. And this is a GPT I made up to write me my AI assistant prompts. And what you can do with this is I'll provide this in the link down below, or I'll provide this in the description below. And basically you can either paste your URL in or paste in a bunch of information about your business. I've just got a little fictitious business made up here, so there's a bunch of information for that there. Create me an AI website assistant for the following business. Which you don't even really have to put that in there, but I thought I may as well add it in just in case. And then you can see this is my standard little prompt. So it's got purpose, company profile, audience, and guidelines. And how this pretty much works is purpose, obviously, what is it actually doing? Company profile, think of this as the perspective that it's actually speaking from. And then audience, who is it talking to? So, you got speaking from this position, talking to that person, and purpose is what it's actually doing across there. Then guidelines. So these are just simple little rules that I've just put in to make it speak a bit more conversationally rather than giving you standard sort of long ChatGPT responses. So, for example, clarity and simplicity. Respond in a clear, simple, and conversational style. Use short, direct sentences without overly formal or complex words. And that basically just prompting it out of saying, you'll notice sometimes the AI will, they'll use these over the top words all the time where it's just not realistic when you're having a conversation. Tone, keep it warm, friendly, approachable. Make the user feel like they're talking to someone knowledgeable and easygoing. Conciseness, stick to 1 to 3 sentences. This will make it sound a lot more like a conversation rather than those long paragraphs it usually does. Persona, use we and our when referring to Bandicoot AI. So that's my business, not the real estate business. So I might need to just put that in again. Stay on topic, politely redirect off-topic queries back to relevant discussions. Factual accuracy, align all responses with the information provided. Handling rudeness, politely remind users, let's keep the conversation respectful. How can I help you? So pretty good besides this error, and I don't actually want all this information down below. Can you write this again, except make sure that it's for the fictional real estate business and do not provide the whole business knowledge base below the prompt. I only want the prompt for this real estate business. All right, so this is looking a bit cleaner like it should have. So I noticed audience up here was a little bit like this when it should just be another paragraph. So there, you got those 3 paragraphs, and then you got guidelines. So you may need to do the odd little tweak, but these prompts tend to work pretty good. Now, I'll just give this a quick little tidy up because I like to be organized. That. And then we need to create a custom field or variable. So we'll just call this AI output. We don't need this. There's AI tools here. This is basically functions that you can call, and it just has the handoff to the person as a default. 4.4 or 0.3 is probably a good spot to start. I might just ramp this up a little bit. Actually, for this one, I might go 1500 because we're going to add a bunch of knowledge-based information in. And before we publish, what we want to do is we want to come down, text, curly brace, look up AI output that we just created before. So this is going to generate the text, and then this is going to post it in the chat. So we can do that. Come down here, preview. So it's just default to a little intro message, but I usually write my first intro message or first initial welcome message and then let the AI handle the rest. We are Coastal Key Real Estate, a boutique agency on the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales. Established in 2014, we specialise in residential sales, property management, and investment advice using modern marketing, clear communication, and data-driven pricing to help you sell with confidence. Would you like to book an appraisal, register for an inspection? Da, 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 da. So as you can see, maybe a little bit longer than I'd usually like, but not bad answers for a few minutes into this video. But that's just a prompt. So we want to actually give it a knowledge base. So just make sure I've saved that. Come back here, AI Center. And you can see now that we've added our API key, this has changed. So we got agents and we got tools. We're going to come over to tools and we are going to upload a file. Now, this is basically the same information that I put into ChatGPT to get my AI assistant prompt, and it's just a little made up business profile thing. So we got that, and then we can come back to our flows, back into main agent. And then if we click on tools, you can see it's popped up down here. Continue. Now let's just ask it a couple little questions. So office address, renting through coastal, approval time. That would be a good question. So I'm going to come back over to the chat. I'll just give it a little refresh just in case it hasn't registered the document there. How long does it take to get, rental approval? And I think it's a little bit slow because we're using GPT-5, I think. Once we have completed the application, it typically takes 24 to 72 hours. Sometimes same day, sometimes longer if we need more information or the owner needs exact time. Would you like to start a rental application or speak to a property manager? Nailing it. 24 to 72 hours. What's your office address? Sorry, I don't have the answer to that. Would you like to speak to a person? Well, I thought we were on a roll. Apparently not. There's always a way you can fix that. And usually with these sort of things, like those basic information things, I'll add them in here just so it has it and it doesn't have to do the search through all the documentation. So that the AI model does affect it. So let's go. And actually, while I'm here, as you can see, it's got all this. So all this history will affect the chat. But if you want to remove it, come back to flows, inbox. And then you can see the conversation here, and you can actually see this happening live. So if I come in here and go, hello, hello, you'll see that pops up there, and you can actually come in here and talk to the user. And then when you're done, let's go, you'll see a little transfer back to bot, and you can click that and it'll go back to the AI. So you can come in here, see this live, and take over whenever. But I'm just going to clear this for now and give this a refresh. Oh, I think that's just a developer thing. So if I come back in, and if I'm completely honest, I don't like to rely on those docs as much, just because I don't find them as reliable. I'd much rather have my own custom knowledge base I can query and I know I can get the results I want from. Apologies there, it's having a little bit of a moment, but nothing like a little troubleshooting while you're doing a video. So, like I was saying, I usually put that sort of stuff in here anyway, but I just wanted to give that a little bit of a test just to see why it couldn't find it in the documents, even though it could find more complicated information. So let's give it another question. Let's go. All right, sweet. But this is a good lesson, because although having those document uploads is good, I tend to not want to always rely on them. So this is why I'm going to show you guys how to do a database search, so you can actually get the exact information rather than relying on these sort of things. So we're going to create a function to do a search for different properties. And the way we're going to do this can pretty much be used across whatever platform you're using to store your product information. But there's a specific way I like to write these functions. So I've got a little prompt here to help me write these functions, or more just to help me do it a bit quicker for you guys. I want to create a function that does a database search for property listings. So there's a two-part thing here. There's a description that I give the AI agent, and then there's the settings for the actual function that we'll put into the back. So I'm just going to tidy this up a little. Usually I just make these 2 points each, but if you look at this, it's name of the function, little description, when to call it, when not to call it. For part 2, can you make the when to call and not to call 2 points each rather than 4? So I'm going to take that, come back over to the main agent, scroll down to here, and we're going to go functions, put that in there. Now just tidy this up a little. Save that, and then I'm going to come out of flows, down to AI Center, AI Tools, AI Functions, create a function, and you're going to have this little thing pop up. So you're going to name the function, short description of what the function does under 300 characters, and then if you want the function or the AI to collect certain bits of information before calling it, you can add these in here, and basically you just create a custom field and then give it a short description. And for this one, you can see it wrote capture all these details, but I don't want to capture all these. So I'm just going to go property listing, or search property listings. And what this does, queries of property listings database using the user's search criteria such as location, da 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 da. Now I'm not going to do this collect data, because I'm going to process the user's query in the next step rather than getting to do it all here. Because if you think about it, it has to collect all of these. But if you want to do a property search, maybe the user doesn't provide all these or doesn't want to. Maybe they just ask for a couple bedrooms and a couple baths to show me what you have, and they're not too fussed on zip code, or they're not too fussed on if it's an apartment or a townhouse. But this function won't call unless it gets all of this information. So I'm not going to do that. And then usually you'll trigger the actual flow afterwards, which I haven't built yet. So we'll have to come back and edit that later. Or I guess we'll do that right now. Let's call this product search. Publish, and I'll just come back and change that in my function. Where to send them, product search. And we'll just put a little demo test query in here. Product search activated. Now, if we come back, skipping steps. Come back to our main agent. And we want to add this in here. So see, search property listings. Just make sure that's got the same name. That, and give this a refresh. Hi, do you have any places with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms? So I think what we've done here, the user has expressed search query. The user has not provided seat. So this is why you review your functions. The user has not provided a location. The user indicates they want to cancel. So this is the line that's messing that up. I might just get it to edit in here. Remove the line that requires a location to search. I basically just want this to search whenever the user describes a property that they would like to see, or expresses that they would like to try and find something, etc. That was a pretty poor prompt. Then the user has described a property that they are looking for or expressed interest in. All desired search filters have been gathered. See, I don't like this. Not all desired search filters have to be gathered before calling this property search. The function can be called whenever the user wants to see a specific property or describes a property that they would like to see. The user has described a property. The user has described a property or expressed interest. Call immediately when the user mentions any property preferences or requests to see listing. The user has not provided any search criteria. The user has indicated they want to cancel. So this is looking a little bit better. Publish. Do you have any properties that have 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. And there you go. So product search activated. Obviously, probably should have checked that or looked a bit closer at the start. But like I was saying, I kind of threw a few of these prompts together just to make this a bit faster for you guys. So now that that's working, we want to come into our product search here. And there's a few things we want to do. So, all right, so here's the 3-step process we want to do. We want to format the search query, we want to search the database, and then we want to display a dynamic card. Now, if I come in here, and just to show you guys what this actually does, is this takes in the user's raw search query and turns it into a format that I can search with. So here is all the different search things I can use. And if you're getting a little bit lost, it'll all make sense in a second. I just have to show you the API call. So basically, we're taking the user's query and the AI is extracting any of these details it finds, and then it'll use those details, but it won't use any of the other details. So this is the difference between this and putting in the capture information when we call that function. Because like I was saying, that function will not call unless all those details are captured, whereas this will just extract the details provided and do a search with those. You don't have to have every single little thing. Then I'm going to create a little custom field. So I'm going to call this API input, which this is plain up. So I think I just have to come out of here. Come over to custom fields here. And it's got it there. Sometimes the page just needs a bit of a refresh when you're jumping around, but let's go API input, API output or response. Yep. So that looks all good. Come back over here. I'm going to go API input. So this is the output of the prompt, but it will be the input of the API call. So that I've just changed that to 2 and put that up to 1,000. That should be good enough. And I'll give you guys all these prompts and stuff at the end, or link them down below in my resource hub. So that's that. And what we might just do here is get it to print that out just for the first few so you can make sure it's actually formatting it all correctly. And then we're going to come down here, actions, external API request. Now, whatever application or you are using or you store your information in, it probably has an API key. And if you do a bit of digging, you should be able to find it. I just have a little demo database set up in Supabase here, which most of you guys probably aren't using if you're a standard business, but the software you are using will have something like this. And what you're looking for is something that looks like this. You got CURL, post, URL. This is the input format. So as you can see, it has all the different categories of things I can search, and then it's probably going to have a content type, application JSON, API key, authorization, all that stuff. So I'm just going to take all of this information and fill out the API card. So if I come in here, URL, post, headers. So I got content type, application / JSON. Now this might all be slightly different to you, but it'll be pretty much the same. And you can see it's got super base key there, but also a bearer. So you may or may not have the bearer key. So I filled that in, and then I'm going to come over to body and we're going to go JSON, because here we've selected the content type as application JSON. So that means we use the JSON setting here. And we need to put in JSON. So I could do this whole chunk here as a query, or I could just go bathrooms value, just as a little bit of a demo. That, and I'm just going to go value 1. So it has to have 1 bathroom, and then I can come over here, I can click test, and if it all works successfully, you should have your response from your database. Now what you're going to do is you're going to copy this and come over to map response, and then you're going to click on this little icon here, and this is going to take you to a JSON Pathfinder. So I'm going to put that stuff in there, and now you can select whatever things you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of them. So if you see here, I go ID, it goes property 0. So it's always going to start at 0. It's just a thing when you're dealing with JSON. So 0 is actually 1, and then 1 is actually 2. So if I come to here, it says 2 there, but it's actually 1. But I don't want to get individual ones. I'm just going to grab them all. You can grab individual ones, but for the way I'm doing this is I'm just going to grab it all and do a similar thing to what I did here. So here, I took the raw query. So I'm looking for X number of bedrooms or bathrooms or whatever. The AI has extracted all the little details and then put it into that JSON format that we can do a search on. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to display them in a card. So I've just put the whole response in here, and you can display cards in here like, here's a card. But the problem is you have to go and input all of these variables one at a time. And then if you want to have multiple cards or multiple carousels or whatever, you have to manually put in all of these elements. And, it's a little bit of a waste of time. Like if you're displaying one thing, it's fine. But if you're doing an API request and you're getting back multiple things and you don't know how many responses you're going to get, if you're going to manually put that in, you got to put in, where is it, a condition, and then you got to go, oh, right, if there's this many responses, go here, and then you got to map out each single set of cards individually. So it's a bit of a waste of time, and I'll admit there's one feature I don't quite like about this platform. And but the way I get around that is I do this. So, what are you doing to me? Is I have another AI prompt, and what it does is it formats the response using the JSON version of the carousels. So rather than me having to manually put in all the carousels, I can get AI to generate me this little bit snippet of code, and it'll have all the responses I need. So that's going to there. API response. This is meant to be Oop, API output. And again, I'll give you guys all these things and you can take them and turn them into whatever you want to use them. But this one is important that it has the exact structure. So if you go through and have a read, output only JSON, no other text. So you don't want any text outside of this. Or actually, I think it might still post a JSON even if you have a little bit of text outside it, outside the structure, but you don't want that anyway. So do that, put this down to, put that up to 1,000. And that. And then we want to go AI output, which is just my default variable I use for when I want to send something to the user. Now, if I click play, which I might just do it from here because right now I technically still have this already manually set in here, but we'll make this the response from the card before when we go live with it. So I might just go here and go preview, and that way it'll just run straight from there. And like I was saying, sometimes these things just need a little bit of a refresh. Oh, no, there it is. So this is the carousel card. So as you can see, pretty neat little thing. Yeah, so I was just taking a little second there. Pretty neat and tidy. And you can see how there's all these details in there. So if you had to manually put that in, and you'd have to manually put that in for every single one of these little cards. So it's a little bit of a waste of time. But that's all working, and I'm going to change this to the starting position. And then as you can see, I've got API input there. I'm going to come here and I'm going to change this to API input, quote, that. Now, one thing that does happen here sometimes is sometimes when you do that in here, it'll say it can't, or, error, this isn't proper JSON or something. Like if I got rid of that, save, you'll get this, but you can still publish and it'll still work. So just watch out for that little gotcha there. But just make sure this aligns with whatever platform's API documentation. Publish, that. Now I might just come back over here, clear this, just so we're starting fresh. We'll grab that link, we'll grab the web chat. Hi, do you have anything with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms? Now, there can be a little bit of fiddling around with this to find the right sort of balance. Because, for example, some AI models take longer than others. Obviously, the faster models are cheaper, but then don't always give the best results. So sometimes you just got to play around with it a little bit to find that right sort of balance. But here you can see this was that little test query I had, or test response. So you can see it's gone, oh, 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Oh, let's format that into the correct JSON. We'll send that away and obviously not send a response back to you. But what we can do is when you're not sure what's going on, so here you can come up to the inbox, come have a look at this side and view executions. So see, that's all gone through, and then I don't really see what's happened here, but it's probably just me missing a specific variable or something in the flow. So this should be all good. That's the response there that we saw with the JSON. Then if I come in here, and that's what I did wrong because I've put this inside this already. So I wasn't paying attention there, and oops, sorry, still not paying attention. Save. And then just while we're here, we'll just double check that this looks all correct. So the input, see, last input, that was almost a mistake there as well. So what we want to do here is we want to go API output, save. So just to reiterate, we got API input, API output, API output, AI output, just so hopefully I don't confuse you guys with that. Now, give this a refresh. Do you have anything with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms? And like I was saying, you can always do a bit of fine tuning to make this stuff a bit faster. But as you can see, it's formatted the query correctly, and then it's done the search, and then you have this information. And what I would also usually do is on the main assistant, I would add a variable in here so that it understands what has come back from the API response as well. So maybe I, go API output here as well, or something like that. And that way, when the person's talking to this agent, it can talk back and forth about the specific products and things. But how do we deploy this? So we come back here. Usually you do a welcome message. I want losing the plot. Welcome message. Hi, welcome to this real estate demo. Come back, come down to settings, and see you still got the main agent. So every time it calls a function and it goes off and does its thing, whenever it's finished that other workflow, it'll always come back to this one. Then I'll come down to web chat, manage, create. Demo 1, and then you can go welcome message and add your website in here. Conversation stars, persistent menu, probably a bit outside this demo. Choose a color. Let's go dark navy. It's probably has that professional look to it. And then what I like to do is I like to use this as my standard little one. So background color, make that the same as this. Okay. And then, so this is just affecting the header of the chat. So you'll see that in a second. Save. Get this link. And see, I've just made that header blue with the text white, whereas before this would just be white and black. And then these buttons and this is affected by the color you select here. So there's a quick little demo for you. Obviously, don't keep this in there when you're going live. And to deploy this, you grab this little snippet of code and you put that on your website. But before you even do that, I'll show you this little neat little thing, bot simulator. So you can add a website. Let's just go. That. So here's some random business. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab their URL, come over to the bot simulator, get link. And it sometimes doesn't work for some websites. I think it depends on the security. But see, you can see this, and then this is what the chat's going to look like when it's on the website. Cool little demo. It's not actually up here. This is just a little thing you can do. But before I go, I'll just show you guys a little bit of secret sauce. So if you come over to integrations here, you'll see that there's all these other things you can integrate with, like Zapier and Make.com. So this basically means you can integrate with whatever application you really want to. And then there's a whole bunch of other things, like, you got email senders and PayPal and Facebook. You can do Facebook at little campaign things, but I won't get into all that stuff. The one other thing I will mention though, and because you may have a use case for this, is you have your main agent and then you have a bunch of, you'll call a bunch of different functions, but sometimes you don't want it to constantly come back to the main agent. So for example, I have an agent I built that does maintenance requests. And when someone lodges a maintenance request, I want to send it to this other agent and stay on that agent until it finishes its job. So if you want to do that, we're going to create a router. And how this router is going to work is there's going to be a condition block, which this will be the first. And then I'm going to go tags. So I haven't created any tags yet, but add actions, add tag. We're going to go T1, enter. T2, enter. But then on each of these, we also want to do remove tag. So on that one, it would be remove tag 1 and remove tag 2. So they're basically opposites. But you can do this as many times as you want. And then if the tag is tag 1, go here. If it is tag 2, go here. And then from here, start a flow. Go main agent. What am I doing? Start flow. And we'll just go product search. You wouldn't really do it like this, but this is just for example. So say you're on your, or say this is on your actual, our chat. So let's just say this is your main main agent. And this is the flow that it's always coming back to. And it always defaults to here, or it defaults to that one, unless the chat has another tag. So if you think about it, when I call the product search, I could add one of these blocks in, which adds or removes a tag. And if this is set to product search, it's just going to do a loop on the product search. But you could do this and say you might have, 2 or 3 different agents. I recommend trying to just keep to one, but sometimes you want to have a sub agent for something. So for example, in here, they do have things where you can, let's say, get user data. And it's like you have a set question and then, what are you trying to capture from the user? But the problem is if the user says something that is not what you wanted it to, it kind of messes up the flow. So what I might have an agent on its own, and that agent has 2 functions. It has capture 3 or 4 bits of information and then call the next function, or it has abort and send the user back to the main agent. And the way that works, it just keeps it a bit more conversational and a bit more flowy. Whereas, you have the set, input this response now, and then someone quickly asks a different question or whatever, and it just breaks the whole thing. So it just keeps it a bit more dynamic. And that's how you can kind of glue multiple agents together. And so you would make the router flow the default in the settings. So if I come back here, I'd come down to settings and I'll set this to router. And then the router would always have a default to the main agent, but it means as soon as a response comes, or if you call the function and change the tag, you can send the person around the place to different locations. So I hope that makes sense. But just to recap, we went through prompting the AI assistant, adding in documents, creating functions, sending API requests, generating dynamic JSON cards, a little bit of CSS. I'll add some notes in for some other CSS settings for you guys. Routing conversations, which probably could have explained a bit better, but I'm sure you guys will get the idea. And integrations. So again, go have a play around with ZapierMake.com. If you guys are struggling with the APIs, you can use these to integrate with your app and make your life a little bit easier. Additionally, there's all these other platforms that you can actually deploy this type of application on. Web chat was just the easiest to use, so I was doing for you guys. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and help us out a little bit, and I'll see you next time.